County Board of Zoning Appeals to order. And all of our members are here except for one. Ron Makala could not make it. But Bill Tiekelman, Steph Ritter, I'm Alex Sharp, and Julie Kuntz. The first item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Are there any modifications, deletions, additions? Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we have 6 public hearings tonight. So the first one is Dowling Real Estate LLC for a tourist home.
Do you want to approve the minutes from the?
That would be a good idea. Okay. Sorry, I got over anxious
They were
there.
just so well done.
Okay.
You should acknowledge
The
that.
next item is the minutes from April 28th. Is there any corrections or changes? They're very well done.
I move that we approve the minutes from April 28th.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, once again, we have 6 public hearing applications. The first one is Dowling Real Estate Tourist Home. Mike, you're here to represent the applicant?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Would you like to summarize what you're asking for?
Certainly. As the application materials make clear, this is an application not in connection with the main Blue Rock Inn, which is the subject of a separate application that is now pending before the Planning Commission, but rather a separate structure that is off on the western side of the property. It is a house that was built, or it was started to be built by Gary Harvey when he owned the Blue Rock property. He did not get very far in that construction before, for whatever reason, he stopped and basically left the shell of the exterior of the house there that had stayed there for several years unfinished. When Mr. Dowling bought the property, he determined that it would make sense to go ahead and finish out that structure and apply for the tourist home use, which is the application that you have before you this evening. The initial application was filed, well, just to clarify something for the BZA members, the initial application was filed before the enactment of what we all refer to as the May amendments to the zoning ordinance. And so in the initial paperwork that you may see, it refers to requesting accommodations for up to 7 units, basically 14 individuals. After the application was filed and started its way through the process, of course, the May amendments were adopted and ratified by the Board of Supervisors. So we have moved that our application be deemed amended to conform to the current requirements for tourist homes, which is not more than 5 rooms for up to 10 people, and that's specified in the staff report that Ms. Summers has filed. It's a fairly straightforward tourist home application. The statement of justification gets into the details regarding the proposed use. The property will be managed, we expect, once the Blue Rock starts active operations again. It will actually be managed by staff and individuals connected to the Blue Rock Inn property. But until then, it will be listed on sites, the traditional tourist home sites like Airbnb and VRBO. Mr. Dowling himself has extensive experience in the hospitality industry, and at some point it may be that it's just marketed through the overall Blue Rock site. But for now, it'll be treated as a traditional tourist home. Typical provisions for safety and welfare of the guests. The checking in process will emphasize safety measures, and there will be prominently posted the contact information for the local fire department, rescue squad, sheriff's office. There will be a landline installed. I'm not sure that it's gone in yet, but at this point the house hasn't been completed yet either. No meals will be served at this structure. It will simply be a tourist home for guest use So it's not a bed and breakfast type use. That, I think, pretty much summarizes the application. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
I did have one question. Is this being treated as, it is being treated as its own separate lot?
It is all on the 70 right now. The Blue Rock property is 79, roughly 79 and a half acres. That property has not been subdivided. There is a restriction on the subdivision actually in the existing special exception permit for the Blue Rock that dates all the way back to 1992 that said that the property could only be subdivided if the Board of Supervisors later amended or modified that special exception permit. That has not happened yet. So as of, although again, that is part of the application, the main Blue Rock application is working its way through the system. That restriction has not been lifted. So at this point, that tourist home is on a 79 and a half acre parcel that also has the Blue Rock property on it properly. We have made a point in filing, as we have filed the two applications, I want to be sure that the board members are aware, we are aware of the, this doesn't apply to tourist homes. Tourist homes has their 5-bedroom, 10-person maximum. Over on the country inn side of things, or conference center side of things, there is a maximum limitation on the number of guests that can be accommodated, depending upon whether you have a country inn use or a conference center use. And basically how that works out in the code, our Rappahannock code, is it's 8 occupancy units, and an occupancy unit is defined as 2 persons. So 8 occupancy units per 25 acres. So we have taken that limitation into account in filing this application so that even if the restriction on a subdivision is not lifted, and the Blue Rock property has to remain a 79 and a half acre property, the 20 total occupancy units that we have requested in the country inn application that is separate from this one, and the 5 units that we have requested, essentially equating those the same 2-person units. The 5 units that we've requested in this application will remain under the maximum that would be allotted to a 79 acre property, because we did not want to create the impression that we were trying to do with this tourist home and maybe do a subdivision that would allow us to somehow subvert the maximum limitations that are set forth in the code.
And then you had a restriction in your special exception permit that prohibited you from using that house. And has that been, what is the status on that?
It has not been resolved yet. That is making its way through the system. It has been forwarded. That is an amendment to that special exception permit. So in the last planning commission meeting, it was forwarded without recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for action, and that should be on. That's actually expected to be on their June 7th agenda for the Board of Supervisors. So what we're respectfully requesting of the BZA to consider this evening, if the board members are inclined to act on the special use permit, is to condition that ultimately upon the Board of Supervisors lifting that restriction on commercial use that's in the existing SE.
And I have one last question. If you were to do this division, then this property would be served by a right-of-way from 211 to the property through another parcel?
We're working on a revised layout right now, Mr. Sharp. We're aware that obviously the parcel that is created around this structure would have to have the minimum 10 acres, since this is agricultural zoning, and we're aware of that. And we're considering in the final layout that we'll be submitting in connection with the other application, whether we'll lay that 10 acres out so that this driveway just stays on that 10 acre lot,
okay,
or whether this driveway will in fact be an easement. And if that's the case, then the applicant's aware that means that private easement would have to be the type 2 road study.
Okay.
And that's a discussion that's ongoing with the applicant right now in terms of how we ultimately lay out and subdivide that, assuming that the board even approves that subdivision.
okay.
And I just had a question about the septic approval. Whether it indicated that there wasn't a final approval, is that in one of
Did you
these?
say the septic?
Yeah,
I mean, it's ongoing construction, so there's
Yeah,
a
okay.
permit, construction permit that's been issued, subject to final inspection.
Okay,
and approval
okay.
by the health department. There is not I don't believe, as far as I know, there's not been a final certificate of occupancy issued in connection with this.
all right. Didn't look like it was.
Okay. Bill, do you have any questions?
I'm.
Oh, you're
gonna stay out.
recusing yourself, I'm sorry.
My wife is employed by the Dowling Group, so I'm gonna stay out of this.
Okay. Julie, anything? Okay, okay, sure. I'm gonna open the public hearing right now. Is there anyone here who'd like, okay. Could you identify your,
True exception, you and I know who I am.
if you would, please. Okay.
District, here we are. It seems to me that we're always in the same position. I'm on the farm, they have the construction, they're complaining. It's not necessarily the 5 bedrooms, but it's sort of the finagling that it's separate and then it's gonna be joined to the major property, and then and we're talking commercial and it's agricultural, and I also listened to all the music from the Blue Rock. I also was the neighbor on the farm side. If it's going to continue with the commercial growth, put it on the east side of the property, not next to my fence line. So there we go.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you.
Yeah, you want to ask me something?
Yeah, about the music from the Blue Rock.
Yeah.
I've recused myself from this, but I just thought I'd make this,
Well, not recently, but
well, but I mean, I've lived there for 10 years. I lived there on and off for 10 years at the Blue Rock.
Well, I've been there a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's okay, but what I'm saying is, I had the same complaint with the music, but it's coming from somewhere else.
No, it was coming from the Blue Rock when they had the outdoor bar out there.
Oh, okay, all
Okay.
right, well, yeah,
Okay.
that,
It's not coming from.
that's not
somebody's own.
anymore.
Okay, I think
And
we're,
then,
okay.
we do this and then, 1 month later, I'm going to be a permanent visitor and this is going to be, may I have another exception? Can I have another exception? So, to me, it's agricultural. It should have main basis agricultural, not commercial.
okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Is it anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing right now. What are we looking to do here?
Yeah,
I'm not
somebody's gotta
looking
make
at
a
you, I'm not
motion.
looking at you,
No,
actually.
somebody's gotta make a motion, and it's not me.
No, you're not gonna make a motion.
In front of each one of you, there are the general standards, section 170-52. This application, I actually appreciated that they have the worksheet completed. So if you reference Dowling Real Estate LLC, that file, and you looked at the application, I don't know if
Yeah,
it was the
no, great.
applicant or if Michelle, the applicant provided
Yeah,
those
that was
findings.
That was amazing.
So thank you. That's very helpful. And so if we could go through each of these and just concur that we can make the findings, I think that would be helpful.
What I was just gonna suggest is we should probably have a motion before we make the findings. Would that be agreeable?
Sure.
Just because,
I'll make the motion that the special use permit should be awarded.
granted.
Ms. Ritter, if you do not mind adding a condition for
Sure.
no commercial signage in line with how we've consistently been
Great.
approving in
Yes.
the past, would you be amenable to amending your motion?
I am happy to amend my motion.
Would you be amenable to amending it further? Because they need this special exception modified in order to be able to follow through with the permit if we grant one. So can we add that as a condition? In other words, it would be conditioned upon the modification of the special exception permit that they had. Now, that was just to build a house. That was what that special exception permit was, just to be able to build an additional house on the parcel. Is that,
Yes, sir, that's correct.
that's what it was, okay.
Right.
And so it had the condition of not being
No
commercial.
use is what the special exception permit says.
And I would just comment for Hood's benefit, if it helps. The tourist home, as practiced, is pretty close to a residential use. So it's not the same as well, it's got a commercial element to it because there is a rental aspect. But I'm not sure that you could say that it is the same as a full-blown commercial use. That would just be my thought. It's because typically it's rented to not individuals who take different rooms, but to a group at a time. That's the typical, and that's the understanding, that's how it would be rented. Is that, okay? There are other conditions that we typically put. And the signage, nobody wants any signage? Is it no signage whatsoever?
There's no new signage is proposed.
Okay, what's that, that's a condition. And then there are the safety conditions that, are they in the staff recommendation probably?
Yes, they are,
Okay, do we want to include those?
sure.
They're built into the main amendment. They're part of the code now.
Oh, they are part of the code, okay.
Mr.
Okay.
Brown, I assume you've seen the staff recommended conditions?
So,
Have you seen the staff recommended conditions?
yes, ma'am.
And so those are a max of 10 people, no food service, and the permit terminates upon the sale or transfer of the property. And we're adding 2 additional conditions, one being no commercial signs, and also a contingency on granting of the SE application.
Now, is that no commercial signs or just no additional signs? Which,
They have a sign there now, it's for the horses.
I'm just clarifying, is that no additional signs?
There's no additional sign there.
No additional signs?
There is a sign for the Blue Rock campus proper. This entrance is separate, and we're not proposing
Nope.
any additional sign.
So, but you could have something marking the address or something? Okay,
No commercial sign for the home.
but no sign at all is what they're saying?
Okay, that's
I
great.
mean,
Right.
okay. So there was a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, so would you like to go through the findings? Is that what you're proposing to do, Julie?
If that's the most efficient, we can go through what has been provided to us.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Do
Okay,
you want me to read them out?
Sure.
Okay, so the proposed use shall be such that will not adversely affect the use or development of neighborhood property, shall be in accordance with the applicable zoning district regulations, the location, size, and height of buildings, structures, walls, and fences, and the nature and extent of screening, buffering, and landscape shall be such that the use will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and/or use of adjacent or nearby land and/or buildings or impair the value thereof. And the answer is the property adjoining immediately to the west is the Quaintance Farm owned by Mrs. Meyer and would not interfere with the agricultural use of that dwelling. The subject dwelling itself has the size and appearance of a residential dwelling such that the proposed use would not discourage or have an undue impact on the use of the adjoining farm property. The proposed use shall be such that the pedestrian and vehicular traffic generated will not be hazardous or conflict with the existing and anticipated traffic in the neighborhood, and on the street serving the site? And the answer is the property is served by an existing driveway, road, and an entrance on US Highway 211. No new highway entrance would be required in connection with this application. Adequate utility, drainage, parking, loading, and other necessary facilities to serve proposed use shall be provided. Parking and loading requirements shall be in accordance with the provisions of Articles 9 and 10. The answer is the use involves a pre-existing residential dwelling with sufficient parking already established, utilities, and sufficient parking for the proposed use. Parking's located to the immediate, I think it's the rear, yeah, I was going to say back of the structure on the same parcel. Signs shall be regulated by the provisions of Article 12. And the answer is no new signage is proposed in connection with this application. The impact of the proposed use shall be considered and addressed in establishing a time limit for the permit. Existing and recent development, current zoning, and comprehensive plan shall be among the factors used in assessing the future impact of the proposed use and whether reconsideration of the permit after a stated period of time would be necessary and appropriate for the protection of the properties in the vicinity and to ensure implementation of the comprehensive plan. The answer is the proposed use is located on the property which is already subject to an existing special exception permit for the commercial operation known as Blue Rock Inn. Property is located along an existing highway corridor subject to several commercial uses and is planned to continue as such under the comprehensive plan. If the proposed use shall be such that air quality and surface and groundwater quality and the quantity are not degraded or depleted to an extent that would hinder or discourage the appropriate development and or use of adjacent or nearby land and or buildings or impair the value thereof. The answer is the expected use would be less intense than the use of the dwelling for everyday residential uses by large family, such that air quality and surface and groundwater quality and quantity would not be impeded by the proposed use. The proposed use will not result in unsafe conditions in relation to community facilities existing or planned as relates to adequate police and fire protection and danger and congestion in travel and rescue services. The answer is the proposed use is not located in proximity to police or fire and rescue services, nor would the use cause congestion, create dangerous circumstances impeding travel or rescue services. The proposed use will not cause an undue impact on the sanitary landfill and solitary waste transfer collection station. The answer is that the proposed use is an intensity and type that would not be expected to generate substantial waste or having an impact on the landfill or waste transfer collection stations. The proposed use will not cause an undue impact on the historic or scenic qualities of the immediate area. Given that the proposed use would be contained within an existing residential structure, not located within an historic dwelling or district, the proposed use would not be expected to cause any impact on historic or scenic qualities of the immediate area. And then the proposed special exception, special use, will not be detrimental to the implementation of the adopted comprehensive plan, including the goals contained therein.
So before you read all the conditions, I was just going to observe that could we not include those as just attach them to the permit somehow? Because there are some conditions. Are there any of those that are notable or debatable? I mean, it seems like they're just basically answering questions. The lighting is one they're talking about, all down and shielded, consistent with single-family residence. But otherwise, it's not anything notable, I don't think. So can we add that to your motion? Would that be
Sure,
okay?
that would
And
be-
you
that would
you
be
would
fine.
second that anyway?
I'll second that.
I would
Okay.
happily add it.
Okay, is it any further discussion? By making an affirmative vote, we're agreeing that we can make these findings, I would
That's
say. Okay. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And you abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for filling all this out. It's really nice.
Since we did that, Ms. Summers has sent us the actual Word template for that form, so.
Oh, yeah, I was
Oh,
wondering,
great.
what kind of,
To correct all the typos.
Oh, yeah.
what kind of typewriter was that?
It's an old selectric, IBM selectric.
I thought maybe it was a manual one. Yeah. Okay, that was very, very good. Okay. Now,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mike, are you representing these next ones? There, oh, so the applicant for, and are you all of the next ones? All of them, okay. Who would like to come forward and speak on these? If you could introduce yourself.
Absolutely.
And I'll announce which one you're talking about, but I did think, if we were, all of these parcels are on contiguous properties, is that correct? And, I just wonder, for the purposes of reading the findings, whether we could kind of short circuit that a little bit. But anyway, we'll get to that. The first one then is the 20-10-3. Do you know, there's tax map 51-4A. Do you have them? You have two on 51-4A, correct? Okay. And those are on, is that a 19-acre parcel? Okay. How does the board wish to proceed? Are we just gonna do one at a time? Are we, I mean, I know we're looking for input on any one, or what is the board's?
It's gonna be difficult to parse out the findings if we group them. I mean, I don't understand how we could do that, or unless we'll,
Well, I mean, I'm thinking they're all on contiguous,
yeah.
like, I mean, it's,
Well, at least two, yeah.
is that right?
Yeah.
So it's as though it was one farm. I mean, it is one. And what is the separation of the different LLC?
Those LLCs are all owned by the same individual LLCs.
But, okay, so you have Mazzell, and Fairhaven LLC?
Correct, that we just put in place on advice of our council.
For that one.
That-
And is it anything unique about that one? And so the ownership of all of these other ones how is that actually titled?
Everything rolls up to my mother, so.
So how would you recite the name of the owner?
Either it would be under the Zell Declaration Trust or Lawrence Zell Declaration Trust, which would be both trustees.
Okay. Let me look. Okay, well, you're welcome to stand there or come forward, either one.
Okay, great. Mr. Strong, good to see you. I'm Leslie
Yes.
Zell.
Hi.
Thank you, everyone, for your time this evening, it's a beautiful evening, and I appreciate consideration today. Perhaps to give a little bit of context of why we're here today. As you may remember, Castleton Farms used to host a classical music festival, a training seminar, and we had multiple residences there that were all onto the property before we came to house the students. After my father passed away, we wanted to figure out a creative way to use the property, and it's such a phenomenal place here. We love Rappahannock County. And we thought, one way to do that would be to invite select families or individuals to come and stay at these houses. So we had tourism permit for a few of the houses previously that we were using. And we have several other residences that over time we have upgraded and developed in a way that could be now suitable for guests. And, we love the farm and we love all the residents there, and so we are always looking for a very specific type of guest. And our farm manager, Paul Payne, and his wife have done a phenomenal job of really selecting those guests through various platforms that come, everything to take care of the place, that you would appreciate nature, and to love the farm and property like we do. So these applications are for the remaining 5 houses that don't have tourism licenses right now. 3 of them are on the same property, but walk next to them, and one of them, Fairhaven, is contiguous to another property but right across the street. And we spent a lot of time thinking about how this could work. As rental properties, they're all on main roads. They were developed in such a way to be easy to use for students. So they already have all of the most up-to-date kind of safety standards and safety proposals that we've gone through. So we think this is a beautiful way to allow people to come to Rappahannock. And so we're here today to ask whether we can invite some, we can have those tourism permits. One note is that we have no interest in becoming a restaurant or serving alcohol or having parties. My mother is a Virginia resident. She lives full-time. The last thing she wants to do is have loud people disturb her peace and quiet. And so if I have friends over, she tells me to turn it down. So most of our guests, I would say, the vast majority are families, and then we have some couples and individuals that come to hike and do active activities. So we do not allow parties. We do not, and so that is something that's very important to us. Certainly because we live there and we want to keep it beautiful as we stay. So.
Okay. So this first one I'm looking at is application or use permit 2010-03. And this is parcel 4C. And it was on the agenda, it says 4A, but I think it was corrected on the application to 4C. So 4C is correct?
Yes.
But I'm not seeing 4C on this deed.
Well, there are 2.
Oh, wait, maybe I'm missing a deed.
There's 2 buildings on the same lot.
Okay.
Right.
And that's the 18.470 acres?
I believe that's the 48.5 acres. There's a tax map 51.
Right. For,
Yeah, it says 48.515 acres.
It's 48 acres. It has these 2 properties that are within maybe 3 or 4. Very smart. Okay.
Okay,
So, thank you very much. So,
that's great.
This is the first one. So this up here is 4C, the item number 2010-03 on the agenda. And then this one over here is item number 2010-05 on the agenda, 4A. And this context previously was the theater house.
Right.
And then actually, while we have the map open, farmhouse, then there's parcel 3A, which is over here. It's this little house right now. And then we have parcel 3A, so that's number 201007, is the house over here that's connected to the theater house. And it is a, right now, well, it's a two-bedroom freestanding house. If we were to label it this building, this building, this building. And for context, my mother lives right here. So as long as there's no noise in this area, she will be happy.
It seemed to me that the main issues had to do with the septic systems, and that they were previously permitted for fewer people than are now requested, and that the engineer had suggested perhaps fewer tourists than you had initially asked for.
Correct, I believe that was the case, and then we amended the application to reduce the number.
Great.
You came out and inspected all the septic fields, all that.
Yeah, I guess some of them had been there for a little while. Yeah.
Okay, it's not sure. I'm seeing references. So there are two on this 4C or just one application?
There's two. Well, sorry, it's two on the 48 acres.
And that is 4C.
Yes.
Okay, and what is the other one on the 48 acres? Because I don't see a 4C here.
It says a 4A.
It's the tax map parcel.
I know, but what I'm saying is that there are two 4Cs, two 4As on the agenda. The application for this one shows it as 4A was crossed out and was put 4C. So,
What's that?
Okay.
so 4C containing 48 acres.
Fourth thing should be the schoolhouse and the farm.
So it's two on that parcel?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're talking about
Yes.
Yes,
the same one.
and two on the 19 acres. That's the fairhouse and the farmhouse.
Okay.
That's right.
And which one is the 19 acres?
That's the
3A? Okay. Okay. And then the other one is this Fairhaven?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many acres is that on?
Or just under 15.
15?
15.
1-5. Okay. I mean,
They all bought as none of them.
okay, and so as far as the access that each one of these has,
So they all, so we can go, wouldn't mind going back to the map again. Thank you.
oh, you're doing that? Oh, she's doing that, okay, okay.
All right. Or sorry, the Google Maps that I might even be. So the the parcels on the 48 acres. Oh, fantastic. So this is 217 County Road, and the parcels on the 48 acres, this one has a direct driveway. This is quite wide, that opens up straight into this building. And then this one has this turn driveway you can see, and then it is a 15, 20-foot walk to this residence. So they are right on the road.
So they each, does all,
They just say maintain.
each parcel has state maintained, I mean, state road frontage.
Yes.
And then the 19-acre lot, this one over here is also a state maintained road, goes straight into the building. And it's the same with this one. The house is right here, and you come in over here. And it's right on the access from the state maintained road. And this is paved as well.
So those are both on the 19.
Correct.
And then the Fairhaven, you
And
pointed
then
out.
Fairhaven, if this map will zoom out, it's another state maintained paved road over here
That's on Hopeville Road.
on Hopeville Road.
Oh, yeah.
And the access is directly,
Onto Hope Hill Road.
correct.
Okay. I mean, it's sort of like we're handling them all at once.
Yeah, so the question is whether or not to go through all of these,
I think except for Fairhaven, that seems a
yeah,
little
that they're all
different.
clustered, right?
I have a question. On one of these, they're talking about having the average occupancy of 3 persons, 3 days a week. And we're talking about a full-time rental now. That they don't equate to me.
I'm
The
not sure. what-
approval is for 3 persons or 3 days a week. And that, from what I understand, you want to rent them out full-time to people?
No, it's Airbnb, right?
Beg your pardon?
Well, you
It's an
could,
Airbnb.
you-
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
They
Oh,
could
'cause
rent
you
them.
talked about having families come in and doing this. Is that related to what you're talking about here?
Correct. So most of our families and guests come to Airbnb, although we've now developed a relationship with some folks that work with us directly.
but you could rent it to one person without, I mean, that doesn't eliminate that as a possibility.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. If they don't use it as Airbnb and use it, rent as a full-time thing, do we have a conflict with the health department's regulations here?
Well,
If they rent it out
We're talking about
30
the
days
state-
at a time. If they do a monthly round, then they don't have to have anything.
Yeah, right, that's what I was gonna say, right. Then we don't.
So, yeah, so we probably shouldn't worry about that, but.
Or suggested.
Just curiosity.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then I have a question about the acreage and
Yeah,
19 acres when the minimum lot size is 10. And this is just a question because I really don't have the answer, but
yeah, I wondered about this.
when you have 2 on a parcel, does it require 10 per, like, because I mean, you could put an unlimited number on a parcel. You could put 10 or 20 or however many houses.
Just like the minimum lot size has to be 10 acres and there's no maximum number we can have on that parcel.
Okay, I mean,
So there might be a maximum number of houses that would be permitted for building
Right,
purposes.
these, all these structures are not.
Yeah.
well, and so this is a general question that I have. But any parcel in the county can have 2 dwellings on it regardless of the size of the parcel, because you can get a permit for a tourist, not a tourist home, a family apartment or an efficiency apartment. So you could have a 10-acre parcel have 2 tourist homes on it, on every parcel in the county. I'm not sure that that's what would be intended. And, yes,
Subject to one clarification, which is that the May amendments now lump all of the family and the efficiency apartments.
Well, okay.
Into the category of accessory dwelling.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm not sure in the new amendments whether is it permitted to have a tourist home use in an accessory dwelling unit?
we've done it, I mean,
So that may have been cleaned up in the May amendment. I'm just
okay, no, that's a possibility.
And we have no intention of building additional residences. These are all
Existing housing.
And so my thought was, and I realize I'm probably going out on a limb here, but we are entitled to make an exception to the acreage requirement if it has road frontage. Michelle, that's correct, right? We can make an exception to the acreage requirement if it has state road frontage. Yes. And so I was just thinking we would be safe just to make that exception in this case.
Even though it's not necessary.
Well, I mean,
In case it is necessary.
well, in case, well, because I'm not sure that, I mean,
Yeah, okay, but it would ensure that they would be able,
well, no, they would be able to do it, and it may or may not be necessary, but I think it does seem like these, and I don't know what you want to call it now, accessory dwelling tourist homes. We could end up with 2, like someone could come in, get a house, then get an accessory dwelling, which is the new thing.
Yeah.
Now you have 2 dwellings,
Yeah.
and I don't think there's a restriction on family or anything like that anymore.
right,
And so then they could do that, build it. Then they could apply for 2 short-term rentals
Yeah.
on that property. Now, I don't know, maybe that's what we intend, but I don't think it is. So that would be my proposal, and I know that's going out on a limb and somebody could challenge it, but I don't think that's gonna hurt you all. But, I mean, we are kind of handling them as certainly 4 together and 1 separate. Is that,
Right, that's
does
right.
that, I think that's a reasonable way.
Fairhaven being separate.
Fairhaven being separate. So let's say we're handling the 4 that are not Fairhaven together.
right.
And, I mean, does anybody have questions to ask of the applicant right now? Because I'm gonna,
Should we go through?
I'm
the
gonna
final
open a
vote?
public
Okay.
hearing, but
Okay.
if there's any further questions or, no, okay. I'm gonna open the public hearing on this application, and we're taking basically number 3, 4, 5, and 7 together. So, and is it anybody who wishes to speak on these applications? Nobody? Okay, I'm closing the public hearing. What would we be, what's the pleasure of the board? Meaning, is there a motion?
No. Well, I move that, is it,
10:03, 10:04,
10:05,
10:05, and 10:07.
10:07, be granted a special use permit.
Can we amend to add no commercial signs to each of those?
Sure. Is that,
No commercial signs?
and are we okay with making finding the exception on the acreage requirement on the 2? Which are the 2 on the smaller one?
10:04 and 10:06.
Okay, and then 10:04 and 10:06?
You need a motion on that?
Not 6, so 1007, 1004 and 1007. Can that be included in the motion? Is that acceptable, or do you have, do you
That we're, how are you?
waiving the acreage requirement for those 2 parcels, 2 tourist
What
homes?
about we're waiving any possible acreage requirement that there may be?
That's great, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
And then the staff, safety, which are in the, or they're in the May amendments, okay. So I guess we don't really need to specify them. Okay. Julie, are you able to read that motion back to us?
We are moving forward with a motion on special use permit 20-1003, 20-1004, 20-1005, and 20-1007 with staff recommended conditions on all 4 of those, with the addition of no commercial signs. And I'm still unclear, Alex, on what you want to do.
We're waiving any acreage minimum acreage requirement that may apply.
From section 170-53?
Is that where it is? It's,
170, 66K.
170-66K.
yeah, so waiving any acreage requirement that may exist.
On special use permit 20-1004
And 7.
and 07.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second that motion.
Is there any further discussion?
What should we make these findings?
We can.
I'm just gonna, I'll do that.
Steph, may I propose, we have 170-52 all in front of us. Perhaps we can just all say if we concur, as we say, A, B, C, D, to run through them?
Okay, great.
Okay.
How that would great. What a great idea.
A, yes, B.
Okay, A, general, the proposed use shall be that will, such that it will not adversely affect the use or development, et cetera.
I can make that finding
I
for
can.
all 4.
Okay, great.
I can as well.
I can as well. The proposed use shall be that, such that pedestrian vehicular traffic generated won't be hazardous, et cetera.
Yes.
Yes. Julie, yes.
Concur.
C, adequate utility, drainage, parking, loading, et cetera. You make that finding? Bill?
Yes.
Yes.
Signs shall be regulated, D. Bill? Yes.
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 Future impact of proposed use shall be considered and addressed in establishing a time limit on the permit, E.
I mean, we're not
Yeah.
establishing a time limit. So.
Well, only if it gets sold, it doesn't
Right.
convey.
Is that
That's, I think, what,
is that a condition, Michelle?
that's one of the staff conditions.
It is the staff recommendation. Okay. Okay.
Okay, F, proposed use shall be such that air quality and surface and groundwater quality aren't affected.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, proposed, E.g., proposed use will not result in unsafe conditions in relation to community facilities.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. H, proposed use will not cause an undue impact on the sanitary landfill, et cetera.
Yes.
Yes. I, proposed use will not cause an undue impact on historic or scenic qualities. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Proposed special exception will not, or special use will not be detrimental to the implementation of the comprehensive plan. J, yes?
Yes.
Yes. And then,
Well, the only
all the
one
restrictions.
here on the restrictions, do we wish to consider the lighting being downward,
You probably have that, right?
yeah, okay.
Just consistent.
But I mean,
with
is
dark
that-
Skies.
Yeah.
So should we add
Yeah,
that,
as a
add that as a
requirement, yeah.
condition?
Yes.
So Julie, we would add the lighting be down. Whatever the term is. Okay,
Okay, great.
Is that the only dark skies requirement, is downward facing lighting?
I,
But that is a requirement.
Yeah, but I think the requirement says you can't show your lights onto neighboring properties or into existing roads. And it needs to be downward shining and,
Is that the only condition we're adding?
yeah. down-
But it's
down.
also in these condition
Yeah, what's suggested, yeah. Okay, so subject, you all understand that, what we've said? Okay. And is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so those four. So the next one is
Fairhaven.
2010-06 Fairhaven LLC. And that's, how much acreage is that on?
So 15.
Okay, is it anything remarkable about this property?
Well, it's very beautiful, but
Okay,
there's nothing
okay.
special about it.
Okay.
It has a pond behind it. That actually, my apologies, is not quite the right map. There's, sometimes Google Maps gets that on the road.
Yeah, they do that frequently.
I don't know if
I don't think that's all.
we're able to open up Google Maps generally.
I don't think that's Google Maps, but she's gonna try, okay.
And we can show you exactly where it is. The house sits on a county road, there's a pond behind it. It's a very large house.
So we need to do all four?
Yeah.
Oh,
Very fancy. So maybe you.
really?
That's okay, yeah. Look, matching. Match.
Yes. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so this is the house, it's called Fairhaven. It's over here. This is a county road, that's 18, little pond back here. And then all of this property is part of the farm. There are already special use permits for this house over here. This is where the performances used to be,
Yeah.
the theater, and it goes back quite a bit. And then this land over here down below is also part of the property. And so we have a neighbor over here in this house, and then there's a neighboring house much further over here. But otherwise, everything else is part of the property. And there's actually an internal road that goes inside the property that folks can use the facilities. But this is the house in question.
And it directly accesses is accessed from the road?
Exactly, and this
Okay.
is straight access right here. Onto County Road.
That's what they'll.
Right.
Okay. Is it any questions for the applicant on this application?
Well, there seem to be two septic systems, is that right?
Two on the top.
And they both serve the one dwelling? Okay.
And the health department found that they were suitable for a 4-bedroom rental or Airbnb.
Okay.
The additional septic was from an addition built in 1989.
Yeah.
I'm going to open the public hearing on this application. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this application? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing then. What is the pleasure of the board?
Well, I moved that we approve the special use permit for Fairhaven LLC.
Second?
And we're going to do it subject to the staff recommended conditions?
Yes, and no commercial
And no
signage.
commercial signage?
And limit the restriction of downward lighting.
And restriction of downward lighting? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a lot for me.
The next item, and it's my understanding that, well, Mike, you're representing the, and so it's a variance, Dodson, Hawkins, and Turnmeyer. And this is just basically to set the public hearing? Okay. I mean, we've received your application in the package, and, I mean, that being the main thing is just to set it for public hearing. Is it anything you need to add, or you'd be available at our next meeting?
That's right. I think the application materials are all complete. I don't believe there's anything missing. There's nothing from Ms. Carter, but this is an unapproved parcel. So
Right.
there really isn't anything really pertinent for the health department official to weigh in on.
Okay,
Ms. Shermeyer, Ms. Hawkins, and Ms. Dawson are all here this evening in case any questions came up. But we've asked that the board go ahead and schedule this for the public hearing for next month.
for next month, okay.
I have just a question about the drawing. The long, this long thing is,
Yours is not in color, Ms. Ricker.
oh, that's the problem. I thought, man, what could that be?
Oh, look at that.
Oh.
That is a much clearer depiction. The surveyor has measured the required setbacks if they were unvaried, and that's what is shown in green there,
Okay,
which would make for an uncomfortably long and narrow house if you try to fit one in there. And then what we have depicted there in that reddish orange is the dimensions of a moderately sized 30-foot by 50-foot dwelling with overhangs and so forth. It renders a variance request then of 5 feet from a Jericho Road.
Right.
That side, that front, and then 5 feet from the rear property line.
Okay. Is it any reason not to hear that next month?
no, I can't think of it.
And so is it any further information we're gonna need?
No, that was what I was gonna, I was actually going to ask if we could see what the house, what it would be like. I didn't realize that was what we were, what
Okay.
picture represents. No, that's not your fault. I should have thought that that's probably what it was.
This summer needs to put in a budget request for a color.
Won't that have to be next fiscal year, I guess? Yeah, too late for this one.
Have one.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I'll just be cheap.
Do you need some ink?
You're just being frugal with the time.
So you mean you have the ink as well? Oh, okay. See?
Also, the highlight-
Now, was that your typewriter that they borrowed for the, for that last one? Okay. Okay. Do we,
And I guess
we-
the neighbors will be notified.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
and then it'll be advertised and,
If you all set up for public hearing, I'll prepare the advertisement and then you can review it and then, send the adjoining property owners.
okay.
notification.
So, I mean, I don't think there's anything else we need to do other than we'll hear it next month.
Great.
Do we need a vote for that? We could.
Well, just in case we do, let's.
Yeah, we're being hypothetical here. Okay, is there a motion to put this on the agenda for next month for a public hearing?
And
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll see you next month. Okay. And I think that's it for this meeting. So we have a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.